Hello guys, good afternoon po. Nandito po tayo sa town office ng Neepawa para sa meeting ng bubuksan na trail. Update po ito sa nakaraang vlog natin nakaraan na yung sa dating football field. Ngayon ipa-finalize yung design. Kaya nandito tayo para makita yung final plan. So ayan po.
That's right. Well, you can. No one is telling me you can't, but you won't have to.
Nobody likes golf on the same golf course. Move it around.
Who went in there, I think, the opening.
Oh, did you go?
Is it? Oh, good.
Some of those guys have already been in dock.
I know. That's good parenting.
My son is like, yeah, I don't care if you're there. My daughter's like, I want you there.
Okay.
So ayan guys, yung gagawing trail. Ganda. Ayan o. Mido.
Is when you're
So nakalagay dito sa beginner yung green. Sa
The existing
intermediate,
entrance
so,
is,
double diamond.
where is the existing now? So it's gonna be a little further up there, okay? And then the trail in, okay, all right. I was just trying to sort of visualize sort of where it is in the moment. I wasn't sure.
It's bigger. Yeah, the bigger one for sure.
So ayan guys, so napakaganda niyan pag natapos yan. Great Trail of Neepawa. Ito ang itsura niya sa ngayon.
Go by and disappear again, and here you'll be able to see the rider almost the entire time. When we were here, done quite a bit of drawing, a bunch of brainstorming. And the challenge here was to come up with a park that would be kind of attractive to a bunch of users. So we want to hit up, walkers, dog walkers, bird watchers, trail runners, cyclists, snowshoers, you name it. Out of those, the most fussy tend to be the mountain bikers. I'm one of them. I want the experience to be good for the mountain bikers, and if it's good for the mountain bikers, everybody else will be pretty happy too. They're the fussiest. They want something that's creating a flow that you just don't get with the other types of trailing. So another challenge was to get as much trail in this small area as possible. Ideally, we want to be able to hold a race. So we're looking at about 5 kilometers of trail, and that's what we did to sneak in here. And to do that without any intersections is a bit of a challenge. So there's a bunch of climbs, there's a bunch of descents, so you're going up and down quite a bit. And then there's a few over-unders. So there's basically bridges that you go under once and over on another lap. So you don't have to cross a trail. So if you did hold a race, nobody's crashing into each other. So I'll just kind of go through the course in general, but if you have questions, just stop me. We'll just take it from there. Down at the bottom here, this would be kind of a start-finish area. So wider, it lets you line up a group of cyclists. And I like to start them on an uphill. So this first climb here, numbered 1, it all goes along with my little document here with their descriptions. Starts it on a climb, spreads everybody out so that when you go into a single track section, you're not just all bottlenecked right into one little spot. So you get your first climb, and then it pops into the trees which are existing. So there's a little creek running through there, nice little spot, you get some shade. We just want to use those trees to basically slalom in amongst them. not very difficult, but a good feel. Down at the bottom, we have a little bridge crossing the creek, and then a nice climb back up along the trees, just on the downslope, so you really feel like you're just in the forest. And again, you're just kind of slaloming through the trees and back up towards the tracks. So it would be a bit of a climb, brings you back to this flat area up top, and I'm calling that kind of the plateau loop. And that would surround an area that would be targeted for picnic area, so picnic shelters. We were talking about parking there in a future phase, but for now we have parking probably on the outside of the park. But what that would allow us to do is have a loop that you could have young kids. It's flat, so you could have the young kids, and the parents could be parked or sitting at a picnic table. You can see your kid for the entire loop, and they can just play. And we'd have some undulating kind of berms along the back here with a bit of a buffer, treed section to isolate you from the tracks. But again, good visibility for families to see their kids. We put some skills features along that, so just rideable rock and wood features to teach kids what it's like to have their tires on different materials. Riding rocks can be scary, so make some easy rock features so that they learn how to keep your tires on it and be able to advance to more difficult features. And then when they get to the mountains, they're not scared. So that's the outer loop, and then we come down to our first downhill. So basically, starting from this side and going this way, we're getting more advanced. So this side would be easier, intermediate, more advanced. So if we phase things in, we'd probably look at phasing in more the easier stuff first, and then bring in the more difficult and more advanced. And that actually allows the community to kind of progress with the park itself, so that you don't throw a bunch of huge jumps that nobody has the experience to do. So start with the small stuff, intermediate, bigger. So the first downhill would be quite just flowy berms, nothing taller than say a meter, but just to give you that roller coaster feel. I don't know if anybody skis or snowboards, but it gives you that turning and unweighting feeling when you hit a berm, go over a roller, and then into another turn. Similar radius turns. It's kind of the holy grail of mountain biking. We call them flow trails, and it's just a really fun feeling. So people tend to just session those types of trails. So you'll be able to hit this climb and go back down for when it's not a race. At the bottom, we'd go across over top of one of the other trails, and then we'd climb up the middle. And I'm calling it the West Creek Trail. So we're going to have a creek down the middle. There's some natural groundwater seeps in the area, so we want to kind of control that, bring it down through the middle, and use it. So in the middle there, I'm going to digress here from the trails. In the middle, we'd like to have kind of a nature park playground style area for kids. So you could just use this climbing trail to access, well, there's already some big trees and logs and rocks over there. So just make natural play structures, basically. Adding some water, let them get dirty too. So nature park playgrounds are becoming quite popular. We built one in Simoy Park, and we add water and let them get dirty. So super fun. So you can climb up alongside of that, and it'd be a fairly easy climb, but we'd have some technical features to teach people how do you climb a rock that's say this high, and then another one that's this high, and then a ride around. So if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. And ideally for a race course, you want to have the more difficult one, the fastest line. So if you're not capable of doing it, you have to take the slower, easier route, so that there's actually an advantage in a race to do the more difficult route. So we'll do that in a few places. So that's this line here. And then you come back down, and I've got a bunch of little nodes here, so that would be a bigger flow trail. So now we're going a little quicker, perhaps some higher berms, maybe add some tabletop jumps. So these jumps are, they're low consequence. You can actually roll over them. There's no big human-eating gaps. If you don't have enough speed, you just roll over it and you ride it like a roller. So they're not very dangerous. So that takes us back to the bottom again. Now we're coming up again, climbing the east side of the creek. So that's the East Creek climb. Again, you can use that as a trail to access any of those nature park playground features. This is going to be a little more difficult. So now we have it marked with a blue and a black diamond. So more difficult climbing than the previous one. So beginners, you can learn on the first climb, then start taking it to the next one. And again, same principle, where the harder line is the fastest, with a complete ride around that just takes longer. So if you're in a race, all abilities can still ride the same course, but the more advanced riders are still challenged and not bored, and they're gonna go a little quicker because they're hitting those more difficult features. So that brings us to the top again, and we'd be going back down a more difficult flow trail. So again, the features now get bigger. Now there's kind of a natural ridge over there. I'd like to use it kind of as a wall ride, so you drop in and you ride up the bank of the ridge that's there. Come down it, make a berm, and head back towards it again. So in snowboarding, it's one of the best feelings when you're just basically carving. It looks like a big wave made out of dirt, you know. So that's the kind of feeling we want to get there. At the bottom, there's a pocket of trees. Definitely want to take advantage of that. Just get a bit of shade, and it's got that natural feel. And then come up the outside climb here. I'm calling it the last climb in my document, but basically uses the outside road that's there now, but we kind of make it twist a little more than it's doing right now. Up at the top, we'd have another over-under, crossing back over that initial point, where the high point of the more difficult climb. And now we'd be into something that's a pretty advanced jump line. Denis basically said, I want big stuff. So he asked for it, and we could do it. And I'm thinking of some prefabricated ramps, so some series of ramps that you actually would have to land over a gap. So there would be some gaps. So you have a takeoff and a big mound, a landing mound. So you have to clear it and land on the mound. So if you're not good enough for that though, I'd like to use the mound for a jump itself. So again, it's just kind of a tabletop jump. So if you don't have enough speed, you can just roll over it, no consequence. Or ride around it completely. So we'll have a route that just bypasses the mound. So that's kind of the last line, and it would, I kind of envision that Monster Energy motocross feel where you come off these big jumps into the finish line kind of thing. So the finish line would be right at the end here, and you might have to have some sprint room if you had some two dueling riders, and it would be nice to have that space on that last jump line so that you can have two people battling it out, give them that chance at the end to sprint and have a really exciting finish. So that's the course. That would be a mountain bike course. We also want to look at a connection with the Great Trail, formerly known as the Trans-Canada Trail. So its spur ends over here. We'd like to have it go and wrap around the entire course. So that would be completely multi-use, wide, just an easy walking path.
So there'd be room for cyclists and for walkers
Yeah.
without any obstructions in the
Yeah.
way. So
Yeah, you could have two-way traffic there without much conflict at all.
We're
If it-
imagining 10-foot
Yeah.
okay.
Lots of room. So, I'd imagine some form of crushed limestone path with, fairly easy grades. So you could potentially, you take a wheelchair on it, accessible. So we'd have some entry points, and that would, be used to have trailhead maps, explanations of the trail difficulties, so a person coming to the place for the first time would know, okay, I'm an intermediate rider, where's the blue stuff? Let's get on that. Or if they've never seen it before, we tend to use the same nomenclature as ski hills. So you got a green dot for the easy stuff, blue square for the intermediate, black diamonds for advanced, double blacks for the most difficult. So you'd have a place to explain all that. And also we could recognize sponsors and donors. So you could have donor plaques, that kind of thing. And the way we've kind of imagined, phasing this in, each one of these trails that I've kind of described is costed out separately. So you could approach different sponsors to basically say, I'm building this trail, I'm building this, the easy down, the green downhill co-op downhill or something, and they would fund that single trail, and they could be honored at the start of the trail. So right at the entrance, you could say, this is the so-and-so trail. Trail brought to you by, so that the user knows who gave them that experience. And then the wayfinding signage along the way could also have their logo, arrows, and difficulty signs, and perhaps trail names, that kind of thing. So it's a good way to get money to help fund this kind of thing, and then perhaps an overall sponsor for the entire site. We also want to look at things like winter use, tobogganing. So probably somewhere in this area we'd be looking at just a place that's open enough to have some good tobogganing fun, and with a good run out that's safe, kind of thing. So I'd say that's key. Fat biking's huge these days. It's really growing in the prairies. You don't need mountains to do it. I think the grades here would be really amenable to fat biking, so all you need is a groomer, and off you go, or a good snowshoe community. Snowshoers and fat bikers are, I don't know, it's a symbiotic relationship. It's really good. So that's all I got on the top of my head. If there's any questions, feel free to ask. There's more detail in this document, and yeah, feel free to find me later if more questions come up.
I heard you use motocross in there, but is that part? No. You just
no.
happen to use it as the experience.
It's just, it's a jump right at the finish of a race.
Yeah.
But while you're talking about it, it's a thing. Dirt bikers and ATVers have made it onto my trails in the past, but it's not really designed for them. The speeds are really different. So a motocross bike is going to get on this and go, oh, this feels really weird. It's too small.
Yeah.
So what I've seen happen in the past is, and it's usually right after it's built, somebody comes on and says, look at this is great, I want to ride my dirt bike on it. And they go on it and they go, oh, this isn't great. And they make a few ruts and then they leave. So.
Could you describe a little bit more the park pavilion and the meeting place? Just sort of elaborate on that for me.
Well, what I'm looking at there is kind of a central location to host like large groups of people that want to go for picnics on the weekend and get some family exercise in. So I imagine just basically some shelters from the sun, perhaps rain. It's actually a decent view. There's lagoons there, but it looks nice. You're up there, you're looking down the hill, and there's birds. It's not a bad view.
Size-wise, how large would that space take up?
Scale-wise, right here, it's about a 50-60 meter length at the moment. But that kind of thing, the detailed design of that is negotiable. It's going to come down to funding, and it could be a phased-in thing too. Yeah. And it would be neat to have. We're kind of looking for a farm theme to this. So the over-unders that I'm thinking of, I didn't really explain that. I'm thinking of using grain bins on your side, so that you make a tunnel out of it that you can ride over and under, that are clearly grain bins. But we might put some wall rides in that have the same sort of curved feature made out of corrugated metal to give it that look. But I'm always open for suggestions there. If you have farm equipment related ideas, it would be really neat. And some of the skills features could have that. You have some antique farm equipment that could be, I'll say, sterilized into safe riding obstacles, so that you don't have like twine sticking up everywhere and that kind of thing.
Could the toboggan hill be adapted at all for beginning snowboarders, like added before?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. When I was a kid, learning how to snowboard, it was always on a toboggan hill. Yeah. So, some of the more advanced line, bikes get more speed than snowboards. Like it takes a steeper hill on a snowboard to get enough speed. But if you put in perhaps a bit of a start hill, and it could be made out of snow every year, or just add a mound that's not actually part of the bike trail that lets you hit some of these advanced jumps, would be really fun. Yeah, that's a good idea actually. Thanks.
How much of it will be fat bikeable, or what would you envision as fat bikeable?
I think the whole thing would be fat bike. Yeah. The jumps, you won't be hitting the jump line. The speeds are slower on a fat bike for sure.
Yeah.
But the grades, that's the key thing. Like you can't climb steep grades on a fat bike. You just, so, and then everybody's walking, right? And then they punch holes and post hole trail. So the grades here, I think, will be minimal to fat biking for the entire route. So just slow.
It's slow, yeah. And then snowshoeing would be just anywhere, I guess, like
Yeah.
the same trail.
Exactly. Yeah, fat bike season, I think people discourage tires less than 3.8 inches. But when it's a good hard packed situation, there's plus size tires now these days that would be fine. But snowshoes are definitely welcome on fat bike trails. And then I think, as the community gets a little bit of knowledge on what it's like to either create an experience for a user or destroy it. Like cross-country skiers are very protective of their double track, right? So fat bikers don't like walkers post-holing their trails. So if it's soft conditions, that's part of the signage and education to the users out there. If it's rutting or post-holing, just stay off the trails. So.
How long does it take to develop the trail?
Something like this could be, if all money was in place, the trails themselves could be probably
Extra money, let's go fundraise.
Well, we built Bison Butte today.
Yeah, exactly.
6-kilometer course for the Canada Games in 2017. We did that under 2 months.
Where's it located?
Yeah, at Fort White Live in
Quarter of the way there. We're gonna be on the yard.
It's doable. I'll use your neighbor Dauphin as an example. Projects I don't discourage, and in Dauphin is one of them, because they've got a lot of volunteer-built wilderness trail. So they're knocking off a lot of distance by just 100% volunteer work. But for something like this, it's not difficult to do the outer 3-meter wide trail. There's a lot of contractors out there that can handle that no problem, as long as they can follow a line of pin flags. I'll tell you a horror story about one of the contractors that I work with out in Gross Moor National Park. They were building a trail. It was designed, and then another contractor was working on another segment of the trail, and they basically plowed a straight line through the bush, 30 meters wide, and there was people just freaked out. But that's what the contractor thought. Oh, you want to get from here to here? I'll get you there. And it was bad. It got some bad press. So that kind of thing can happen. So just gotta have good communication with your contractors here, and match them to the project that they're capable of. And that can save a lot of money too.
Yeah.
What are we seeing these days? Depends on the discipline, but mountain bike races will get 50 to 75 racers plus their families. Cyclocross, which would be totally doable here, it's actually a bigger discipline in Manitoba, and we'll get up to 300 racers. It's pretty big. Like Dartcross in just north of Morris, it's kind of the premier cyclocross race, and there's an A race, B race, and a C race. And the C race is the kind of the entry level. And I think last year there were over 100 riders in that one category, and they're all going at once, which is amazing to see. So yeah, you can do stuff like that, and it would be a shorter course than what we have here, so you'd use less. You wouldn't use it all. Sometimes you get